quick session today, so let's jump right into it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the recording of this hand as it was a quick session. I wasn't necessarily planning on vlogging it, but it was a really interesting hand, so I asked that you kind of watch on, give me a moment, and I think it'll be worth your time. So, we start a must move when I get to the casino, and the game looks okay. It looks like there's one or two pros in the game and then some recreational players. I pretty much haven't played a hand for, I think, 2 or 3 orbits, playing pretty tight, just getting dealt trash, until I finally get King 10 offsuit on the button. There is a couple of limps once again from a couple of the recreational players. Obviously, I'm going to be isolating here. I've kind of finally taken a stand with about the best playable hand that I've received up until this point. So I make it $30. And now what I perceive to be a pro in the small blind flats the 2 limpers call as well. And when he calls here, obviously I'm pretty scared because I think that he's going to have a pretty strong hand here to be calling 30 from the small blind, some pocket pairs, obviously some suited connectors, some big aces. I expect that he should be isolating here by 3-betting preflop because I'm going to be raising on the button fairly wide against these limpers. So maybe it's more like some of the medium pocket pairs than it is going to be some of his like ace, king, ace, queen type holdings or, bigger pocket pairs, which I would expect to just be 3-betting preflop. So we end up going 4 ways to a flop, which comes King 9-5 rainbow. At this point, I actually can't remember if it was 4 or 5-handed because I thought I was betting less than half pot on the flop. So I thought it was 5-handed, but it actually might have been 4-handed. It ends up checking to me. Obviously, flopping top pair. This is a pretty standard C-bet for me. I don't want to be just giving a free card to some of the gut shots. I obviously also don't want to be betting particularly large because it's going to be really hard, as I mentioned before, to get called by worse if I bet too big, right? Like we want to be getting calls from some 9s, some maybe hands like pocket 10s, pocket jacks, which I don't expect anybody to have, as well as, weaker kings if somebody has like king 5 suited or something like that, right? Like if we end up betting 3/4 pot or full pot, it's going to be really hard for people to continue with worse, which is what we want to do when we're betting for value. So I end up betting $60. Like I said, at the time, I thought I was betting less than half pot, but I think that we were 4-handed, so it might have been just about half pot. So I actually like betting maybe a little bit smaller. The small blind now calls, who is the aforementioned, what I believe is a pro, and the other 2 fold. And when he calls here, I've got to admit, I'm pretty scared. I hate this situation because can he be calling wide here? Sure, but he has 2 more people still to act, so I don't think he's just going to have like pocket 10s here and call. Yeah, sometimes I think people will do that, will get stubborn one time, call once and see what develops, but he does have to contend with the fact that there's still 2 people behind him, so it's hard to imagine that he just has like an air ball here, right? Like maybe he's got some gut shots, maybe gut shots with a backdoor flush draw, but like I said, what if one of these people raises? So it's just a really bad call to be making if he just has like gut shots, second pair, under pairs. So I expect that he's gonna have a pretty strong range here when he calls maybe hands like king, queen, king, jack, obviously none that I beat. So when the turn comes off a king, I kind of actually hate it, though now I have a pretty good hand, I feel like I'm still beat. He now checks, and my question to you guys, please comment below, is what do you do here? Are you going to be betting for value again? Are you bet folding if he does put in a raise? What do you like doing? At the time, like I said, I thought I was in a kind of a tough spot, so I ended up checking back because I do think that he still has a pretty strong hand here. The river is now in offsuit 6. Nothing else gets there really other than like the 7-8 gut shot, which I don't expect him to have very often, unless maybe it's like the suited variety to pick up a backdoor flush draw. But out of position, it's just, you're not going to see what I assume is a good player making this call very often. So he checks again, and now I'd like to know, what do you guys do here? Are you betting for value? What sizing are you betting for value? Like, what do you think is the best play? I will let you guys know that I ended up checking back, which I'll get back into a minute. But please comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts here are as to like, what do you think his hand most likely is, and what are you trying to get value from? As I said, so I ended up checking back based on just all the same thought process I had before. Like, I think he has a very good hand here, and I think that when I check back this turn, my hand doesn't look that strong, so I think he could be checking again to get in a check raise. Maybe some hands like pocket 9s for 9s full, pocket 5s for 5s full, some hands like king, queen, king, jack. That I think that if he bets, I'm just never going to call with worse. Because obviously like his hand looks a lot like a king, and it's going to be hard for me to call if I have like even like a hand like aces or queens. So anyway, I end up checking back, and he tables pocket 9s for 9s full. Oh yeah, we owned him. He got minimum value there. He got $60 on the flop. I turned trip kings and never put in another $1. So yeah, I thought this hand was very interesting from his perspective. I understand what he's thinking. He's thinking like, I don't have my hand just looks like I'm c-betting, but at the same time, like, I don't think he can believe that I'm going to be betting this river very often, right? Like, let's say I have a hand like pocket tens, pocket jacks. I'm going to check that a lot because he has some kings. Like, you could assume, like, maybe sometimes I'll go for a thin value, but if I go for a thin value, I'm never calling his check raise, right? Because his hand's going to look so strong. So by checking, he is not going to often get thin value bets from me. And more importantly, if he does get a thin value bet from me, when he check raises, I'm not calling. So I think that his best play here really is to just be leading this river for some like half pot sizing as a value bet. You know, I think he could bet something along the lines of like $150, $130, something like that, $100. Try to get, you know, crying calls, because I think I'm just going to check back here so often. As played, his hand looks a lot like a king. So what could I be betting for value that's worse? You know, even if he's sure that I have a king, then he should be just bombing, right? Like, if he, because after table of the hand, he told me, he's like, oh, I knew that. Well, okay, if you know that I have a king, then just bet like the pot and assume that I'm never going to fold, which is really interesting here also, because at the time, as the hand was happening, I thought, oh my God, if this guy bets, I'm crushed. But I don't think I would have found a fold, which is another really interesting part about this hand, because I thought I was beat. And so if I think I'm beat, why wouldn't I find a fold? Like, if he offers me a great price, I feel like I have to call. Yes, I understand that concept, but you know, I felt like I was beat. I felt like I was beat on the flop, felt like I was beat on the turn, obviously felt like I was beat on the river because I checked it back and was right. And so it kind of, you know, reminds me that going forward, you know, if I have these reads or these beliefs, I should just stick to them. So often I'll just make off these like crying calls and payoffs in spots where I'm like, well, top of my range, can't really fold here because he, you know, I checked back the turn, I should never have a king. The thing is like, when he bets, he's also just not betting, bluffing very often. Like, what does he have for a bluff where he check calls this flop with people yet to act that doesn't have me beat? It's just really hard to imagine. And so, sadly, I think if you bet 100, 150, I probably would have just bemoaned my luck, called, seen the nines full, known that he had nines full or a better king, and cried about it in my mind. But yeah, obviously, going forward, I need to just stick with my reads, my beliefs. I'm happy I didn't bet this hand on the turn or the river, as I ended up losing the minimum. And you know, did he play it bad? I don't think he played it bad. I think on the flop, it's obviously a check call with players yet to act. He doesn't want to scare them away. Like, if he check raises this flop, he's just playing it way too fast and way too strong. Obviously, on the turn, he should still be checking, hope that I have a king. On the river, I think he should be going for value because I'm going to check back a lot of hands. So, I do think he should just be betting there instead of trying to get in a check raise because it's just, like, way too strong of a line. Anyway, so after that hand, I think I'm stuck like $100, and I manufacture a couple of pots where I raise and take it, or raise on the pre-flop, bet the flop, and win. And so we get my $100 back, plus a little more before I have to leave and pick up Charlie. That's right, we won a cool $8 in this quick little short session. That was pretty much the only interesting hand of note that I played, like I said, and I think there's like a lot to be learned from it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And that'll be all for now. As we can tell, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be getting out these 10 videos. So pretty soon I'll be eating that spicy chip for all of your guys' enjoyment. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.